Hello, everybody, and welcome back to ZakIsCinema. Yes, welcome home. You already know. Welcome home. We're so inviting to those who want to talk about movies here. Yes, if you find yourself just kind of wandering around, just getting so sad and depressed anytime you pass a Target or a Best Buy on your travels, and you're just like, you already feel like that old man just sitting there being like, oh my God, I remember when they used to sell physical media and you know, I'd find any excuse to go back to the electronics section just to see what movies they had out there, and you just already feel like that old man reminiscing about the olden days. Well, you have stumbled across the right place here, because yes, I too get violently depressed anytime I see a Target or Best Buy, just thinking about the better days. Come here and let's reminisce. Yes, today we're going to be doing another movie review, so let's just hop right into it here. Today we're going to be reviewing and discussing the movie The Karate Kid Part 3, which came out in 1989. So for director, we got John Avildsen again here, and for writer, we got Robert Kamen. Starring in The Karate Kid Part 3, we got Ralph Macchio and Noriyuki Morita. Again, very sorry, Mr. Miyagi. I think I'm doing pretty good on your name there, but I'm going to keep trying here. So the story for The Karate Kid Part 3 follows Daniel and Mr. Miyagi as they face a new challenge when the vengeful John Kreese teams up with a wealthy businessman, Terry Silver, to sabotage Daniel's success. As we hop into the review for Karate Kid Part 3, we're obviously continuing on the Karate Kid franchise, leading up to Karate Kid Legends coming out later in May here. So I was very interested in watching this franchise again, just because I feel like everybody knows and talks about the original movie, but nobody ever talks about its sequels. You really only hear people talk about the first one and then maybe the remake, but just until like a couple years ago, I had no idea there was a trilogy of original Karate Kid movies. So I was definitely interested in checking out this third one here, because I grew up with the first one, watched that all the time. I have very little memories of watching the second one when I was little, but I never watched the third one. This was one just my dad never showed me, just because he probably didn't like it either. So I was interested in checking this out just because I had no idea really what to expect, what quality I was gonna get here, and feel like I've only ever heard bad things other than people talking about the great original here. So let's start off with the review section, starting with the positives, or the things that I just really enjoyed about this movie. First, I love they reuse the line that they use in the second one here, but I have to point it out again. I love that line from Mr. Miyagi, the one where he says, like, a person living with no forgiveness in heart is living a life worse than death. And I think that line just kind of sums up what these Karate Kid movies go for. It's just about forgiveness and helping others. I love the themes and messages here, and you get a lot of that here in the third one and all throughout the trilogy as well. I do also like how we pick up with our old instructor from Cobra Kai from the first one. You know, after the ending of the first one, we pick up with him here after he's lost everything and he has no more students, and his dojo is basically shutting down. I think in the movie he says he hasn't had a student for 9 months. So I like that it feels like a way more natural direction and sequel compared to our second one. Like, it almost feels like this is where our second one should have gone, because it's a very natural progression of the story here. Like I mentioned in all my reviews here, I love the scenes with Daniel and Mr. Miyagi together. They have such a sweet relationship, and I love the detail about how Mr. Miyagi always shows up for Daniel here. And I feel so bad when Daniel gets picked on, bullied, and beat up in these movies, but you get that comforting sensation knowing that Mr. Miyagi is going to be there for him. And I just love that sweet relationship that they have, even though they don't tend to progress it too much further. They do some new things here. Just even if we kept getting a bunch of these movies where they're just like hanging out together, I would watch that. And honestly, I wish they started like a podcast or something together, because I'd definitely watch every single episode of that. I love their relationship so much, and it comes across so well on screen here. And next here, it might be repetitive, but again, it's sticking with those Karate Kid themes of success and sticking up for yourself and working hard to get that success or the things that you want in life. And it might be repetitive here, but just these Karate Kid movies do a good job at telling that classic underdog story with Daniel, and you're always wanting to see him succeed. You're always wanting to see him learn more from Mr. Miyagi and have both of them work together and kind of help each other out here. So you get those themes, you get those messages here as well, and I think they do come across very well. Like I mentioned, we get a little bit more progression with Miyagi and Daniel here. I like how they actually delve into some conflict between Daniel and Miyagi and showing their different personalities and values about fighting. In this one here, Daniel is much more getting wrapped up in the revenge, just really wanting to go out there and fight these people who are messing with him. And Miyagi's just trying to coach him, teach him forgiveness and stuff. And you really see these values and morals kind of conflict. Sure, it's retreading some aspects of the first one, but I think they do it really well here. And it leads to more tension and fighting between them. And you actually get to see more of a strain on their relationship, which I do think is a needed and new element that they bring in this third chapter here. Next here, I think they do a good job at just having Daniel be bullied in this movie, which, like, hear me out here. It's just like it gives Daniel that underdog story. And one element that they do here is when Daniel goes off to find that bonsai tree for Mr. Miyagi, and those bullies come and break the tree. And honestly, that scene like broke my heart a little bit. It gives him good motivation to want to get revenge on these people, because not only did they break something that he was trying to get, but they broke something that means so much to Mr. Miyagi, which therefore means so much to Daniel here. And it's almost like it reminded me of like Daniel's John Wick moment when John Wick loses his wife and loses his dog there. This was like Daniel's John Wick moment that leads him off into this like revenge plot line this movie is going for here. And next here, I do kind of like how the plot changes with the Terry guy, that businessman is almost kind of manipulating Daniel and persuading him secretly to almost trick him into training more, feeding into that anger that he knows Daniel has, and almost helps drive a wedge between Miyagi and Daniel. Very reminiscent to what they did in the like prequel Star Wars trilogy of Darth Sidious, kind of manipulating Anakin all throughout that trilogy, very slowly and methodically. You get some of that here, where I thought it was just going to be kind of a retread of the first one, but you get a lot of cool scenes of Terry manipulating Daniel, feeding into that anger that he knows Daniel has, but that Mr. Miyagi has been trying to coach him out of. And I like that Terry here also does that with Daniel and his new girl, trying to drive a wedge between them. Again, getting that more aggressive side out of Daniel that he knows is there, and just trying to get him to kind of show everybody that, and really just kind of slowly takes apart his life here, which is sad to watch, but it's an interesting dynamic of manipulation that's a little different than the first one here. I'm going to have a lot of mixed and negative aspects, but overall, I would say this movie is so much more entertaining. Even though I have a ton of complaints with it, it's so much less boring than our second one, and there's just more entertainment, especially with the scenes with Miyagi beating up Johnny and Terry and that karate guy that they hired here. Even though it's cheesy, it has such a great charm, especially when Miyagi goes in the dojo, beats up like Terry, that guy that they hired, and the old Cobra Kai instructor Johnny, when he just takes him out. It's cheesy, but you love seeing Miyagi kick some ass here. And even though it's a little goofier and over the top compared to our first one, it's hitting those right notes, and it's much more entertaining than our second one. So I'd say overall, I did have like more positives than I thought I would with this movie here. let's jump into my mixed aspect. I do just have one thing to note here is that I really do love the ending and how satisfying it is to see Daniel win and beat all those losers in the tournament, including that guy that Terry and Johnny hired. But I hate how rushed it feels. They introduced this thing where the champion of the tournament doesn't have to fight all the rounds. They just have to fight the last final battle there. So it feels very rushed since we only get to see one battle in the tournament, and it just kind of seems kind of silly. I just don't like that aspect here. It's so over the top with Daniel getting his ass beat like crazy. Then in the sudden death part of the final battle, he distracts the guy that they hired with his kata kind of yoga like moves, and the guy's like, oh, I don't know what to do. This dude's doing like yoga right now. And then Daniel distracts him and like flips him over and gets the winning point. There wasn't really a battle. It just kind of felt like Daniel got lucky here, which isn't satisfying fully here. Like I like the ending and just I'm happy he won and that's satisfying, but the leading up to the battle and him actually going through with it just feels so rushed and just kind of like we're retreading the first one here, unfortunately. Now, let's jump into the negatives or the things that I just didn't enjoy about this third movie here. Like I mentioned with our second one, I just don't like the dumb recaps that we get in the beginning here. It just bothers me so much. Like, it's better than watching just the opening credits, but it adds to the runtime and just kind of feels lazy with them using like old footage we've seen before. So I don't like that. It does feel weird here, too, how wasted Daniel's mom feels in this franchise and how she's very much written off in this third one. She's just taking care of some random dying uncle and just never gets brought up again. I know she was never a really big part of the first one, but it just kind of feels weird because I feel like they could have used her more, and it just kind of feels wasted, unfortunately. And again, here they write off his other girlfriend in this one, which I don't mind too much, but still, it's annoying just with how much time they invest in their relationship from the second one. And again, it just gets written off, never really brought up again, just thrown away with one line. And as I keep jumping into some of my negatives, these are much more my problems and issues with the first half of the movie. First half has a lot of meandering and is a little bit more boring. Second half, I think, is much more enjoyable and much more entertaining. So when I'm kind of going over these were definitely more complaints that I was having when I first started watching it, if that makes sense. So first, I like what they set up with Johnny, the old instructor, but I just hate how the goofy ass plot with him turning into like this 80s villain as he teams up with that Terry guy, that over the top rich banker looking guy, hoping to organize an entire revenge plot on a literal child who just graduated high school. Like, it just seems so goofy and over the top. I'll throw some clips in here, but there's a scene of that businessman in the beginning in the steam room, and then he's like laughing hysterically as they plan to like terrorize this child, these grown adults.
Hey, I like that! Oh, I like that, Johnny! I'm gonna use that!
And in the next scene, he's like in a limo smoking a cigar in the dark and just trying to fix this plan of hiring another karate champion to beat this kid in a tournament. It feels like we're retreading parts of the first, and it just feels like so cheesy. It feels like an 80s action movie when these movies were more grounded, or at least the first one was a little bit more grounded here. And my problem with this one, and then also the second one, is a lot of this just feels like random side plots with Miyagi and Daniel just kind of fucking around and then just being like, oh shit, like maybe we should do some more karate. And that's how it feels in the beginning of them. Same with the second part. Like they get better as the movie goes on, but like just the theme of usually sticking up and defending people feels lost when a majority of the runtime is just Daniel buying Miyagi a bonsai bonsai tree store and they're like fixing it up, trying to start a business together. Just like a lot of that beginning stuff is just like, all right, what are we doing here and why are we here? Why are we padding out this runtime with stuff like that? And like I said, there's a lot of just over the top stuff with, unfortunately, that old Cobra Kai teacher and that businessman. Like, I like what they were doing, just if they could tone it down a little bit. When they hire that other kid to like beat up Daniel and they're investing so much time in literally just beating up a kid, like that's what we're doing here. And there's a dumb scene where he gets the fighter in and he's like sitting in the bathtub, that Terry guy, and he's trying to negotiate with them. He's like, if you beat up this child in this tournament, I'll give you like 25% of the revenue of all my dojos. And then he's like, oh, 25%, I'm not gonna do that. And then the Terry guy's like, wait, he agrees to the 50. He's like, as long as you fight as hard as you negotiate. And I'm just like, this is so stupid. The dude didn't even negotiate that well. He just threatened to leave once, and you're just like, all right, you know what, you're a good negotiator, come on, let's do this here. And I don't know, it just feels so goofy and so over the top, and it's just kind of like, at the end of the day, they're just trying to beat up a child. Like, it's just so stupid at some points. And I know they did this a lot in the first movie with Daniel practicing more that defense side of karate and not so much sparring and stuff. But in this one, he's focusing more on that Kado kind of karate, which is more of like a, I don't know, like a yoga type of karate, and it just looks like Daniel's training and doing yoga all the time and not actually practicing fighting. Like in the three movies, I feel like there's never really been like a sparring match, and it feels like it gets a little like crazy and over the top at this point that he's not really training to fight with Mr. Miyagi. Like, you think Miyagi would be advancing him like a little bit here, so you just don't really get a lot of that in this movie. And I'm sorry, but the plot line of Daniel finding this magical bonsai tree where he goes mountain climbing with his girl, digs up a tree, they almost like fall down the mountain, and Daniel starts like kind of being rude to his girl as they're like getting the trees, like, get out of my way, as they're going down to get the bonsai tree. And it's just,
Come on, move, hurry up! Get out of the way!
it's so dumb when Miyagi and Daniel go like mountain rock climbing again to like replant the tree. Like, it's goofy again, just way too over the top and cheesy. And again, it pads out the runtime on this movie, which did not need to be this long here. Lastly here, one of my bigger negatives is I feel like I don't really understand why Miyagi just doesn't train Daniel in this movie. Like, Miyagi kind of pushes Daniel away, and then that's what leads Daniel into getting wrapped up with the Terry stuff, and Terry really manipulating him, making him get more aggressive and stuff. I just don't understand why Miyagi like refuses to train Daniel, because how is this any different than the first movie? Like, Daniel is doing his thing, then starts getting bullied by a kid who knows more karate than him, and Daniel needs to kind of defend himself. So if anything, Miyagi should have been like, okay, let me train you right and teach you how to fight this kid, since you're getting bullied and need to defend yourself. But Miyagi, for a large portion, just kind of refuses, so then that way we get Daniel being manipulated, but at the end, Daniel and Miyagi come back and like train together. So it felt a little convoluted. It felt like it didn't need to be there, because there was really no good reason Miyagi wouldn't just train Daniel here. I know I had a lot of specific negatives, but I would say overall, this movie kind of surprised me and gets way better in the second half of the movie, when more of that karate stuff starts to happen here. I went in expecting the worst, and honestly, it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. There's a lot in here that reminds me of the original and does those aspects well, even though it's retreading some of them. However, there are some cheesy aspects, a boring beginning, and a lackluster climax that doesn't really compare to the original. So very kind of mixed experience, but I'm leaning towards a little bit mixed positive, if that makes sense here. So for my rating for this movie is I wouldn't mind rewatching this, but I'd really only look to like stream it or rent it. But honestly, if I found it in a bargain bin for a couple bucks, I'd pick it up. I wouldn't mind owning this one. It's much more better than our second one here. here, and it's enjoyable because it's doing a lot of the things I liked about in the first one. And if you like that cheesy over-the-top nature, I could see someone enjoying this much more than I did here. But yeah, you guys have my thoughts here on the Karate Kid Part 3. Let me know down below, what do you guys think about the Karate Kid Part 3? What's your ranking on these original 3 movies here? Which ones do you like more? I don't know, do you like the Karate Kid 3 or 2 better? Very curious to hear your guys' thoughts. Yeah, look forward to me continuing on. We got a couple more Karate Kid movies, so those will be coming out very shortly. Thanks again so much for watching my videos, sticking all the way into the end. I appreciate it so much, so thank you. And yeah, look forward to more ZakIsCinema coming very soon.